pretty butterflies. It's not actually moving. Anyway, off we go.
Okay. God's plan is simple, never circular, and never self-defeating. God has no thoughts except the self-extending of himself. And in this your will must be included. Thus, there must be a part of you that knows God's will and shares God's will. It's not meaningful to ask if what must be is so, but it is meaningful to ask why you are unaware of what is so. For this lack of your knowing what is so must have an answer if the plan of God for your salvation is complete. God's plan for your salvation must be complete because its source, the will of God, knows not of incompletion.
The ego, being insane, lacks reason. We cannot find the answer for our salvation within the insane thought system of the ego. God would not have placed the answer within the insane ego. Instead, God's plans for your salvation has been given to the Holy Spirit, who was placed within the Christ conscious part of the mind. Your mind, my mind. The Christ consciousness is not and could never be insane. By following the Holy Spirit's thought system, we will be able to reconnect with that voice for truth, the Christ, our big S self, our higher self.
Where would the answer be but in the source, God, the Creator? And what are you but there? Where are you but there? In with your source, where this same answer is. Your identity as much a true effect of the same source as is the answer must therefore be together in the same. Oh, yes, you know this, and more than this alone. Yet any part of knowledge threatens dissociation as much as all of knowledge. Let me say that again. Yet any part of knowledge, that's the essence of this sentence, threatens dissociation as much as all of knowledge. And all of knowledge will come with any part. Here is the part you can accept. What reason points to you can see because the witnesses on knowledge's behalf are clear. Yeah, folks, sometimes this is hard to read and figure out exactly what he's trying to say if you don't put the emphasis in the right place. What reason points to you, what reason points to, you can see, because the witnesses on knowledge's behalf are clear. Only the totally insane can disregard the witnesses for knowledge. And you have gone past this. You are no longer totally insane. I hope that makes everybody feel better. It certainly makes me feel bad that I'm not any longer totally insane. Okay. Reason is a means that serves the Holy Spirit's purpose in its own right. Reason is not reinterpreted and redirected from the goal of sin as are the other means. For reason is beyond the ego's range of means. In other words, the stuff the ego does can't be reasoned out. It's really dumb stuff, often. Reason gives us a way to correct and to spot and correct egoic thinking, because we do have the ability to be reasonable and reason things. And the stuff the ego has us do ain't very reasonable, often. Okay, let's see what the note says from Tom.
Yeah. This is what he's saying. Reason leads to the recovery of knowledge. Reason does not belong to the insane and thus is not part of the ego. Reason, being outside the egoic thought system, cannot be corrupted by the ego. Reason cannot bear false witness to the truth. The Holy Spirit will utilize reason to demonstrate that the ego's belief system is illogical. The first part of the paragraph again references the oneness of the whole. God is our source and we are God's effect. These are two sides of the same coin, and thus they are forever joined and inseparable. Together, we complete the one self. Knowledge, like the oneness, is also a whole. You can't have partial knowledge, for knowledge is indivisible. If reason can lead the way to our acceptances of any part of the Holy Spirit's thought system, it will lead us to the whole truth, since knowledge is indivisible. It seems like knowledge has to arrive in a blinding flash of light where you get all of it at once.
The word knowledge is based upon the word know. And at some point, you just know that this is the way to go. Until then, you weren't sure. When you have knowledge, you're on the right path. All of the parts of it will become clear as you walk down that path. So, knowledge is the whole thing, but it's about knowing as opposed to guessing or hoping. Faith and perception and belief can be misplaced and serve the ego, the great deceiver's needs, as well as truth. But reason has no place at all in madness, nor can reason be adjusted to fit the end of madness. Faith and belief are strong in madness, guiding perception toward what the mind has valued, which is limitation born from the madness of the egoic mind. But reason enters not at all in faith and belief, for the egoic perception would fall away at once if reason were applied to faith and belief. I'll read that sentence again. That's a good sentence. For the egoic perception of life would fall away at once if reason were applied to faith and belief. There is no reason in insanity, for insanity depends entirely on reason's absence. The ego never uses reason because the ego does not realize that reason even exists. The partially insane have access to reason, and only the partially insane have need of reason. Knowledge does not depend on reason, and madness keeps reason out. This is very reasonable.
Uh, 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 it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little convoluted for me here. It starts to
Well,
feel like, you know, getting knowledge all at once and not in pieces is not the way that we typically learn anything. And so, how do you build on that and grow from that? Because
that's what reason is for. Reason moves us away from ego.
only the partially insane have need of reason.
Right? In other words, we all come into this world partially insane. We don't understand a lot of stuff. We don't know a lot of stuff. Slowly but surely, the use of reason pulls us away from the insanity of just guessing at everything and using our gut or ego, and it moves us towards knowledge so that we know things. The
All
things
right.
reasonable are the things that we know for sure.
Reason is the bridge that can take us back to the truth. After countless failures with the egoic thought system, reason will conclude There must be a better way. This is the crack that opens the door for our little willingness that allows us to invite into our thinking a new guide, the Holy Spirit. With this invitation, the Holy Spirit can utilize reason to start getting its message from truth heard. The idea that there must be another way awakens the decision maker to decide to choose again. Our threshold for pain is high, but it is not unlimited. Eventually, our reason will tell us to choose again, and insanity has been defined as making the same choices over and over yet again, over again, yet expecting different results. Knowledge being truth depends on nothing. Knowledge, like truth, just is.
The part of mind where reason lies, the Christ consciousness, was dedicated by your will in union with your Father's to the undoing insanity. Here in the Christ consciousness was the Holy Spirit's purpose, accepted and accomplished both at once. Reason is alien to insanity, and those who use reason have gained a means which cannot be applied to sin. Knowledge is far beyond attainment of any kind. But reason can serve to open doors you closed against the attainment of knowledge.
The Christ consciousness is the home of both the Holy Spirit and reason. Reason will be used by the Holy Spirit to reawaken our decision maker, to our power to choose again. In the world of the split-minded, reason is a tool used in time to reawaken our mind to its Christ consciousness. The use of reason is not required in eternity, since knowledge has replaced perception. Knowledge just is.
So, to understand something, there's two ways to get there. You either know it, and that's great. The Holy Spirit has given you the full picture. If you don't know it, you can get there by reasoning and eliminating the negatives, taking the positives, using reason. So there's two ways to get it. But what you're getting ultimately is knowledge so that you just know things. And you can use reason if you feel like it to look at other stuff. But the bottom line here is knowing is the best thing. And the way to get there is using the reason that is being used in this book to explain things to us. You have come very close to this reopening of the doors you closed against the attainment of knowingness. It's another way of saying knowledge. Faith and belief have shifted, and you have asked the question the ego will never ask. You have questioned whether the egoic thought system is correct. Does not your reason tell you now? The question must have come from something that you do not know, but must belong to you. Faith and belief, upheld by reason, cannot fail to lead to changed perception. And in this change is room made way for vision. Vision extends beyond itself, as does the purpose that vision serves. And vision extends beyond all the means for vision's accomplishment. I have to say something here. A lot of times, and we've commented on this as we've gone along, it gets confusing because he doesn't just explain. If you have an elephant, this is the reverse of the picture of the six blind men who look at an elephant. One thinks it's a tail, one thinks it's a trunk, the leg, and one thinks that it's a snake, that, and so on. But the thing is that the Holy Spirit that's explaining this knows the entire elephant. And so when he explains it to us, he says, This is the elephant. This is the tail. This is the ear. This is the trunk. This is the leg. And sometimes it's easy for us to get caught up in just the leg, thinking that it's a tree and forgetting that there's more to this elephant. The elephant actually moves, and so on and so on. So sometimes these paragraphs, they have to be studied because they're describing sometimes the whole elephant instead of just one part, which might be easier. But in a sense, going through the whole book, you get all the parts. And that's the reason that the whole book works. And sometimes we get lost in a paragraph. We need help. We get it. That's why this book is for dummies. Others, if someone has all the knowledge, they don't need the book. There
Here,
are many of them.
the ego would never question its own logic. The ego is not concerned with your happiness. It's only concerned with its insane claim that the ego is right and the separation is real and we're not worth dirt. The ego willingly sacrifices our happiness for its desire to be right. Ultimately, the question that the reason asks, would I rather be right or happy? Ultimately, the question that reason asks is, would I rather be right or happy? Eventually, we will decide for our happiness. Happiness is the will of the Creator for all He created, which is His entire sonship. Eventually, we must decide that our happiness and peace are not only God's will, but also our will. This clears the way for God to take the final step in His child's journey to the return to knowledge.
Well, that puts a lot of this together very nicely. That's the whole elephant. That's the whole shooting match. Would I rather be right or happy? It eliminates a lot of junk from our lives.
I'd rather be happy.
I'd rather be happy. And I hope all of you who are listening are happy.